It's July 31st. Fernando hit his first 5-hit game ever. The Dodgers lost to the Mariners at home for the first time since '09. The Padres are 2 games back. I don't think Miller's trading. There's a lot to discuss, namely
You're
the
2
ESPN.
games back? Have I been missing this? Have we slid that
Sorry,
badly?
we're 2 games back from the wild card. We are 14 games back.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we're 3rd place in the division right now. I'm tracking wild card at this point, so...
All right, just want to clarify.
Not 2 games back from division lead. Let's talk a little bit about Skubal, because I think that's the biggest trade news going on right now, and then we'll go into the ESPN podcast, which I think is what's on the top of everyone's mind. So 2 big things, I think, coming out with Skubal in recent days. Orioles traded for his personal catcher, who got DFA'd, which is interesting and intriguing to me. I don't know if it's because they actually think they're going to win it, or if they want to have leverage for whoever does get him when he inevitably says, I want my personal catcher back. And then, according to some reporting by Nightingale, I think Skubal has said that his preference after his free agency is to be a Dodger.
Interesting.
I'm not sure how true that is. My thing, if it is true, loser. I'm so tired of all of these players not wanting to compete. It's not the fact that the Dodgers are willing to pay, because, like, the Mets would pay, and I get it. The Mets kind of suck. The Jays gave Dylan Cease a pretty big contract. There are other organizations that are willing to pay, not $750 million, but would pay pretty handsomely for a Cy Young winner. And it's really disheartening to me that we're in an apparent era where no one wants to stand up to the Dodgers and be the guy on the team who's kind of in the way where Shohei came, and apparently it was the first time the Dodgers had heard, maybe we should work out in our bye week. Maybe we should be at the field as if we had a game, because we keep immediately losing because we've had a week off. Be that guy in the clubhouse who's really trying to be the one to win. I want him to go to Milwaukee. I think Skubal and Miz together, plus the Brewers have been right in it for like the last 5 years. They've never won a World Series, which if it's not going to be me, I want it to be another team that has never won a World Series, which is why I was like riding for the Mariners for so long last year. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Skubal? Do you think the Dodgers are just going to end up taking him just because?
First off, hi Tulip. I was
getting my cat Tulip.
Yeah, she's the best. Second, it's really interesting because I have not been on the hype train of let's get Tarik Skubal, and I was totally joking when I texted you that I already ordered my Dodger Skubal jersey. I don't think we need to do it. I think it's overkill. That being said, what you said about the personal catcher is really interesting because he could go to Baltimore, or I could now see, and I thought of this literally as you were just talking, a 3-way trade, Baltimore, LA, Detroit, send Dalton Rushing to Baltimore, take that personal catcher, because, I mean, Dalton Rushing is pissing me off right now, and that is honestly my biggest thought. He is a hothead. He is not good for our clubhouse.
You know what's actually interesting, now that you're bringing up trading catchers, I'm wondering if the Orioles are hoping that AJ Preller is going to try to make a push, and they'll be able to 3-way trade for Ethan Salas and pull Ethan out of our minor leagues. I'm wondering if that's the hope, the one last remaining prospect.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're going for him. I would love if Skubal would.
Honestly,
we need starting pitching.
Hold me to it. I would love that. I would love to see it. I want to see you guys sign him.
The only way that works for me is if he immediately signs a long-term contract. You know what I mean?
Like, so fucking sign him. Do it.
He's not gonna.
I don't know.
He's not going to miss out on free agency. My other thing is, if Skubal goes to the Dodgers, we are for sure 100% locking out. There is no if, and, or but. Right now, I feel like we're on such a precipice where maybe there's like a little sneaky 3 weeks and then everyone kind of comes together and we get whatever together. If you put Skubal on a 5+ year contract with the Dodgers, are there any pitchers left? Mizorowski.
Skeens.
Who else? Paul Skeens. But it is like, really, you guys, if Skubal became a Dodger, you would have, what, the best 7 pitchers
Avengers
in Major
Assemble.
League Baseball? But you can't. You can't. I think if Skubal goes to you guys, we for sure lock out for a whole year. It's just too much top talent consolidated onto one team. There's no competitive balance. It's almost an antitrust issue at that point. A Major League Baseball antitrust issue.
And honestly, and I hate to say what it becomes, is almost like the Harlem Globetrotters, where, and I don't love it. And I do think we've gone a little too far.
I think there's a bigger issue with guys not wanting to compete. Even when Sasaki was doing his I was a sorority girl, I think he got dirty rushed. And I think
They took him all to Nobu. Yeah.
But do you know what dirty rushing is?
Oh, yeah. Of course
Bid promising?
Do. Yeah.
I really do think he agreed before he was supposed to that he would be a Dodger, and then they had to like spin this whole story because he was coming here saying he wants to be in a small market team, he wants to compete, this, that, and the other, and then he signs with the Dodgers and just is not even playing that first year. It made no sense based on all of the things he was saying in press. Yeah. And that's my issue, is not that I'm going to call a Major League Baseball player soft ever, because I'm sure they all have much more mental grittiness than I could ever fathom having. But like, don't you want to compete? Where's the joy in being like, yeah, we won 7 rings. What about it? You should have. If you hadn't won 7 rings with that lineup you've developed, it would be an embarrassment.
Let's flip it on the other side, though. If you know this lockout's coming, you know that, quite frankly, what's happening now is something that probably shouldn't happen again and probably won't happen again. I mean, like, this is a super team, the likes of which we won't see anytime ever. And like, as a Dodger fan, I'll be telling my kids about it one day. But the fact is, if you're a player, you know this isn't going to last forever. You know you've got one chance to be a part of something truly historic, to play with Shohei Ohtani.
Okay,
to play with Shohei Ohtani, you've got to remember what else the Dodgers have going. I mean, I know you're going to say they shred arms and they're not good for players. The number of Dodgers players who are now training with Yamamoto's personal strength coach, and the way they have built that culture of excellence. And it's interesting. It's like you said before, Ohtani wouldn't have thought to come to the stadium and practice between the off time in the playoffs, which is, it's ridiculous. And by the way, up until Ohtani was on the team, you didn't hear guys saying, I want to go to the Dodgers, I want to go to the Dodgers like that. It was not like that at all. It was a lot more of a building mode. And the
Dodgers were in building mode.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
that's
building
not
with,
what that means.
I mean,
that's like when people were trying to say that who hit the walk-off in the World Series.
Rojas?
They were like, this is Miguel Rojas's Moneyball moment. That is fundamentally not what that means. And they're like, no, it's just because he hit a big hit in a big game. I don't care. You can't call the Dodgers Moneyball. That's fundamentally...
Oh, yeah, no, you're 100% playing
But that's
with,
what you just did. You're like, we were in building mode.
No.
You were not in building mode when you signed Shohei Ohtani in 2023.
You were in, like, MLB The Show, build your super team building mode. Like, it was taking
that
time.
I will give you.
Yeah, no.
If you want to say that, oh, don't you want to be a part of it? He's not. Because it's going to fundamentally change, which obviously I think is part of the issue with the time
Except
we're at.
If you lock in a contract, you lock in, because I guarantee you there's no way they're going to
to be talking about Skubal as, to me, all of these, even like Kyle Tucker, you're not a part of that. The Dodgers super team is the guys from 24-25. It's Shohei. It is Kershaw to some extent. It's Freddie. It's Mookie. It's these guys who were there.
Kershaw to some extent, I'm sorry, he's the backbone of this franchise.
That's because Kershaw was Dodgers before that.
Yeah,
like when I'm talking, like there were a lot of guys who came from other teams in that same 2-3 year
Let's be clear, though,
how many the core.
How many of them just want the ring?
That's lame. If you just want to say I won a World Series, so you're gonna go sign with the super team so that you can easy mode it, you're a loser. That's lame. We need to start calling these guys what they are. Lame.
I didn't defend Tarik Skubal, by the way. I didn't even say I wanted him.
He hasn't said this, right? This is just if it's
Who
to
are
be
you talking
believed.
about? Blake Snell? Is this your saltiness about Blake Snell?
I am still really salty about Blake Snell.
Is that what this is about?
This could be residual Blake Snell anger, but I think it's lame. I think it's bad for baseball. Also, then who are you getting rid of if you sign Tarik Skubal? Not that you're pushing for it. You have 8 of the best pitchers and you can only keep 5 of them in your rotation. I mean, you're just sending 2 of them to the minor leagues?
No, we're sending them to middle relief.
I'll leave it at that. We'll see what he does, or I guess who trades for him. I'm curious to see if he does sign a contract. But if it's me and we rent him and we give up Ethan Salas to rent him and then we don't win the World Series and he becomes a Dodger, someone's head's gonna roll.
Either way, I gotta say, I think I respect what the Orioles are doing with the...
Oh, incredible move to pick up the personal catcher, because you know he's going to want him, so you're going to get something from wherever Skubal lands.
My only most confident prediction about this sweepstakes is that I truly think the Orioles are going to be involved either signing him or in a three-way deal.
And you know, I think the Orioles are going to be the big winner of this sweepstakes.
Oh, yeah, because while everyone else is focused on trying to get Skubal, the Orioles are like, who can we get in return when this all has to come together?
Incredibly smart move.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
some Moneyball bullshit.
And good for, you know, whomever on their team went, they DFA'd the personal catcher. Why don't we just sign him for league minimum and hold him? Let's talk about this ESPN podcast. Last week, we had like 5 to 10 minutes of back and forth about the Shohei betting scandal. I'll play that here. Shohei betting scandal?
Excuse me? I don't know what happened there. There probably is more to that story. I have to imagine the more to that story, though, has to do with him covering for someone who was a lifelong friend who was into some shit.
I still think that makes him guilty of breaking MLB's betting rules. It was his money and he knew about how it was being spent. That still makes him guilty.
By the way, he may not have known what he was into. Could be gambling, could be drugs, could be who knows what. My guess is it was more of a don't ask, don't tell.
We won't get into it.
Prove to me otherwise. Innocent until proven guilty. Do you think the FBI has a vested interest in protecting Shohei Ohtani?
Yes.
Really?
You don't think the FBI has a vested interest in making sure all that money continues to flow into the United States of America? I'm not saying Shohei was the one betting. I'm just saying I think he knew a lot more than he claimed.
Okay.
I think if Shohei were the one placing those bets, it would be different.
Yeah.
I don't think the FBI lets that go. But I think the FBI would go, did he know about these illegal activities going on in a way that we're going to pretend he didn't? Like, there's been corruption.
Or if the agent's a Dodger fan. I was going to say the other thing, too, is it would be investigated out of the LA office.
Yeah, you're like, I would love to not arrest this guy who we just paid all this money to.
Not even that. I saw a funny story, and who knows if it's true. It was some, like, Instagram reel tax cheat thing about some realtor who supposedly wrote off a yacht, and the IRS audited them, and they showed off their pictures of themselves selling Kobe Bryant houses on the yacht, and within 5 minutes, the IRS agent was talking about the Lakers with them. And I think if it is something like that, it's more of that.
Shohei said he knew nothing.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm not going to look any deeper.
By the way, it's got to be something more like, Special Agent so-and-so wants to talk to you. Oh, yeah, sure, he can come meet me at Dodger Stadium before batting practice.
Let's
We'll chat during a bullpen
throw some
session.
balls to him. Don't even worry about it. I have no proof of anything that occurred.
No, this is all speculation.
All speculation and funny jokes. I ended up cutting this because even though I knew it was a joke and it was silly hee, I didn't want people to think it was serious. It almost didn't feel worth it to drag it back up and to actually be talking about like Shohei betting scandal in the year of 2026. But ESPN had other feelings on this matter, and they've thrust this back into the spotlight on the internet, specifically on Twitter from what I've seen, in a huge way. I don't know how it's resonating in the baseball world at large. If I'm Shohei's team, I'm annoyed because the way they're dropping this is they did the first 2 episodes, which included the interview with Ippei, and then they're doing the other 4 episodes every Tuesday, Thursday. And right now, how it's standing, it's kind of damning for Shohei.
I think it's going to get better for him as it comes out, and we'll get into this, but...
I do too, because it's called The Betrayal of Shohei Ohtani, which kind of gives you the frame of where ESPN is going to lead this thread. Tisha talks about this a little bit too, that Shohei gave his prepared statement, did not take any questions, and has not really had to answer any questions since that statement he gave right after the Dodgers fired Ippei. This is kind of bringing it back out and re-airing some dirty laundry, and I have some pretty intense questions after listening. At least where it stands right now through episode 3, I think Shohei is more implicated in this than is let on. We'll see what the other 3 episodes say. Maybe Tisha gets to some of my issues, but I think something you have always said when I'll joke about this is, to what extent, why would MLB be protecting this? Why would the FBI be protecting him? I think it's very clear he is the golden boy. All this money in the Dodgers, in MLB, in money from Japan flooding into the United States is directly tied to him. In the 2 other really big scandals, sports betting, that have rocked MLB, the Black Sox and then Pete Rose. The Black Sox, the World Series gets thrown, it's after the fact. And then Pete Rose, it comes out after he's already become the all-time hits leader when he's a player manager and a manager. So you're dealing with things after the fact. You're not stunting this player. And if you think about it, if MLB had suspended him, if things had been different, we don't have the 50-50 season.
Mm-hmm.
We probably don't have Dodgers back-to-back World Series. If you play that hypothetical out, it is so crazy how different the landscape of MLB is. And if we talk about the renewed interest in MLB from young people and how many people are actually tuning into games, it is very apparent to me why MLB, it's in their best interest to keep Shohei squeaky clean. And as you said half jokingly when you were following me down that rabbit hole, there are guys in that LA FBI office who probably have an interest in keeping Shohei out of it, and this story that's being spun by his crisis comms, like, can we accept it?
I have some thoughts. First off, what you said about the 3 gambling scandals, it's really interesting, because one other thing about the Black Sox scandal specifically that I think might paint how MLB looked at this, Shoeless Joe Jackson. He was a member of that 1919 Black Sox team. He was one of the best at the time. He was a legend, but unfortunately disgraced and caught up in the scandal. He didn't throw the game. He was the one guy on the team who he actually played. And I don't know if it came out later. I don't know the exact story, but we know that he was not about throwing a World Series game, but the rest of his team did. The whole team got punished, and someone who, quite frankly, should have been seen as one of the greatest of all time among that list of guys whose names you know, even now a century later, you realize that maybe broad sweep punishing any involvement in gambling without taking the circumstances into consideration might not be the best approach for the game. And you look at Shohei, and I listened to this podcast as well, and yes, I agree, there's more to the story. That being said, what I don't think changes is I don't think Shohei Ohtani was involved in gambling. I don't think he himself is a gambler. I don't think that he did anything himself that, quite frankly, in any practical or meaningful way impacts the integrity of the game he played. I think he was focused on baseball. I think he definitely didn't want this to become a thing. How much he knew when Ippei came to him with a problem is up for interpretation. That being said, it sounds like Ippei was the one who made those transactions. Whether or not Shohei was standing over his shoulder, Ippei was the one who made those transactions. So therefore the FBI case, and I imagine we'll get into this in the later episodes of the podcast, which will be really interesting to listen to. I have to imagine that the way the FBI was able to square the circle of fixing this without doing anything improper is they just looked through the situation and found the one crime that actually was committed and prosecuted that. As far as the FBI is concerned, who cares whether or not Shohei was standing over his shoulder?
I know at the very end, it sounded like we're going to get into Matt Boyer in the next episode. I hope we also get into the FBI. We can talk about those last 3 episodes after they come out, but I do want to talk through my notes. I took a lot of notes when watching, or listening, I guess, and I'll kind of flag to you where I'm like, I'm not sure, and let me know how you square it, because you're not, you're a very logical guy. If you see something where you're like, this is strange, you're not gonna pretend it's not strange out of, like, want to keep your team together.
Yeah, and not to mention one other point I want to make before you get into this is the presence and involvement of a man who is mentioned in the episode that kind of keeps coming up in the background throughout. His name is Matthew Hiltzik. He is a crisis communications guy who started his career working for Chuck Schumer and then Hillary Clinton back in the day. Picture a real-life Olivia Pope. He was brought in to fix this when the ESPN reporter who made this podcast, Tish, called Shohei's agent, and then a couple hours later, was it?
That was my first flag, is that it was also, I'm calling the representatives, I'm just giving the bookie's name, and then 2 hours later, we've immediately hired crisis comms, which means they know that bookie's name. They know he's a bookie. They know we need to hire crisis comms if the bookie's name gets brought up.
By the way, 2 hours later, they could have looked into that, let's be clear.
I don't think that he was under investigation at this point. Remember that this was like 5 months
No,
in the
but I
making?
have to imagine that Shohei Ohtani's agent knows at least a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who knows this high-powered bookie.
She didn't say bookie. She just said name. I feel like 2 hours to go from, we know he's a bookie, we know we need to sign a contract with crisis comms. That's a very short amount of time.
You know what I think really happened, and now I'm picturing the episode of Scandal, how this starts. Did you watch Scandal, by the way?
I did.
Okay, good. So I don't have to do the full synopsis. But
Background.
I'm picturing this starts when Olivia gets her call, or in this case, Hiltz gets his call, and it's from the agent. So he immediately puts together a little team. They probably want to leave Shohei out of it for the time being, because you got to remember, in a Scandal episode, the principal is never in the room at the beginning when that first meeting happens. It's always people trying to figure this out. So who's the one guy that they bring into the room to represent Shohei on all things general personal life when they need to look into a transaction that he made?
You think
Ippei.
this is how Ippei gets involved?
Yes,
I
do.
think you're crazy.
No, I do. And whether or not, I don't know what happened there. Because you got to remember, Ippei is his English voice. Any of his business done in English was done through Ippei. I'm sure he had accountants back in Japan who were converting some things, but all of his business, I mean, he was his consigliere, he was his business manager, he was his everything.
Right, but within 2 hours, the crisis comms guy is like, oh, you're going to get a really good story out of this. They have already identified it's Ippei. Okay, let's just
Probably because he had a whole game plan. I mean, you got to remember, he's an addict. Addicts lie. They come up with backup plans to backup plans. I'm sure he had a code red plan.
Ippei is obviously lying, but there are so many points where the question of what is his actual lie comes out that I think when people start to say, Ippei confessed to this, why do I have to believe that the liar is telling the truth now? That's just kind of my preface for this whole
I don't
thing.
think we're ever going to know the truth on any of this, other than I truly believe that Shohei Ohtani is not a gambler, and the worst thing he is possibly guilty of is trying to help out a friend with something he didn't know was illegal.
We'll get to it. First thing Ippei said that I was like, what? Is I got into millions of dollars of debt trying to keep up with Shohei's lifestyle. First of all, Shohei's not out here dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars on a night out. What do you mean I was trying to keep up with Shohei's lifestyle?
It was the outfits. It was the clothes.
That's
and
insane.
it's the merchandise. It's the consumerism. By the way, that's another conversation we should have about consumerism and the culture that Shohei Ohtani's creating, maybe not here, but I think more specific to Japanese culture, which I don't know enough about, but...
The cult of Shohei in Japan is quite large. The cult of personality of Shohei is maybe a better way
But
to phrase that.
It's not just him. I mean, you see, and this goes beyond Japan, I think is similar to a lot of the Asian culture wave that's taking over America right now with the luxury consumerism. You have to look at this, too, through the lens of the Japanese way of honor and shame. And, I mean, you could feel that in the way Ippei was talking.
Hear it in how he was talking.
Even as he's sniveling and lying, and you can tell he's manipulating half-truths, he's clearly clinging to some semblance of what he thinks is his moral code.
My next question is, there's huge talk of they're together so much, I see Shohei more than I see my wife, I'm with him for like 16 hours a day. When is Ippei gambling? And how does Shohei not have any indication that this is all going on in the background? Like, if my best friend is starting to get into millions and millions of dollars of debt and is like, you know, like, I'm gonna have some indication something's going on in the background. Obviously, I would never jump to this extreme with anyone in my life where I'm like, oh yeah, they're in, what was it, $15 million of debt to the bookie? Like,
I mean, if it were roulette, it'd be one thing, but with sports betting, you got to remember it's all done over email.
1,900 individual transactions.
All done over email. How many emails do you think Ippei is sending on a daily basis for Shohei's work? It's just send off an email. As far as sports betting goes, you can hide it really easily. I mean, think about, and I think this leads into a conversation we need to have about the general gambling addiction, and specifically the sports gambling addictions going on right now. Remember, we were at one party together where someone was in the background just placing bets in the corner, like sneaking away.
I know 2 guys who are really into casinos and sports gambling.
Yeah, and a lot of times they'll just be on their phones. You don't know what they're doing on their phones. They're probably placing bets.
I know what they're doing on their phones.
I mean,
I know exactly what they're doing on their phones.
But if you don't know they're gamblers, you don't know what they're doing on their phones.
Fair. The next thing, and Tisha actually called this in the podcast, when she asks him, well, were you concerned for your safety? There was a very weird pause before he said yes. In my mind, no, he wasn't actually concerned for his safety. It seemed like Tisha gave him something where he could say yes. But as she pointed out, well, why would you be concerned for your safety? You've been telling me this whole time you thought this was a legal operation. So that was just kind of an interesting Ippei thing.
I think it's more evidence to show that what he was telling her and what we were listening to was a storied web of lies that was clinging to half-truths that came out of his mind based on what she asked.
This next web of thought is all based on Ippei's initial story of Shohei was logged into the bank account, I sent these wires, he was with me, we were doing this over the course of a few months. First of all, Crisis Comms is in the room while Ippei is telling this story, which means that this is the story we, as Shohei Ohtani's team, have decided we are allowing a reporter to hear on the record. We'll get to it later, chronologically, but for Matt to then call Tisha and say, Ippei lied, Shohei didn't know. Why the hell are you allowing Ippei to get on the record and not asking Shohei about this? There's only two things that can be true, and both are insanely damning. Either we had an original story, and then we realized it implicates Shohei in sending money to a bookie, which is against MLB rules, and we have to take that back.
Possible.
Or we put together a whole crisis comms plan and did not ever ask Shohei, the one I am hired to protect. Because this is not Ippei's crisis comms guy. This is Shohei's crisis communications manager hired by Shohei's agent.
Also
no one
possible.
ever thought to ask Shohei what had happened. That's incredibly awful. If that is true, none of these people should have their jobs. They should all be fired and Shohei should clean house. If your agent, there's a difference between
there's a third
possibility.
There's a third possibility. And I think it's a slight deviation of your second, which is that Shohei was in that room at some point, or at least was consulted on this, probably trusted Ippei and said, let Ippei handle this, whatever it is. And Ippei either in the room mistranslated something, which is possible, by the way, because he was a translator. And I mean, I don't think
Shohei doesn't speak like incredible, perfect English, but he speaks English.
Yes, he speaks English. I don't think he speaks it well enough to the point where they would have a conversation about this with him in English.
No, totally. But I think
he should have brought a second translator in.
That's my thing. The concept of something being mistranslated, there are other translators on the team we could have brought in. And I think Shohei speaks enough English to hear people talking in English about betting.
I think when
sports gambling,
they brought the second translator in the minute the FBI got involved. That's when Will Ireton comes in. And I go back to, and the one thing she mentioned in the podcast is the way she was shocked to see Ippei and Shohei laughing with each other on opening day. There is no way in hell that Shohei Ohtani is that chummy with someone who that scandal is that fresh with. I really think this was all handled at the staff level up until...
Then he should fire every single... That
he should
is
fire his agent.
Incredibly damning, if true, that we got a call saying our client is implicated in a huge gambling issue that could get him permanently banned from MLB. First of all, how are they getting Ippei's name in this? Because Tisha doesn't tell them. So they go to Ippei immediately. He apparently tells them, I'm the issue here. But we're not letting Shohei know, hey, your translator was sports betting and implicated you in this.
Here's the thing.
And we're going to let him continue to translate for you?
I don't think we'll ever know what happened on Shohei and Ippei's side in Japanese. We just won't.
Well, and to the points later about Shohei being allowed to not answer questions, he should have had to answer questions about this. This is incredibly damning information that is contingent upon you saying, well, we knew that Ippei was gambling and had implicated Shohei in this manner, but we still let him translate for Shohei, knowing that he was probably trying to protect his best interest.
I think the biggest problem here, that the fact that he was allowed to continue translating and the way he was this translator consigliere role, I think
I am too, they would never let this happen because that's an incredible abdication of your responsibility to your client Shohei. But the concept of being told our client has just been implicated in what's going to be the biggest sports betting scandal in MLB since Pete Rose, and we're going to let the guy who did the sports gambling continue to translate for our client, I don't believe it. Like, that's just so absolutely absurd to me that we would not bring in a second translator.
This is where I don't think Ippei told Shohei about the gambling. I have a feeling whatever he told him, maybe he said I'm in debt, maybe he said I need help. Who knows what he told him?
I actually do believe that the original story, before we get the call, Ippei lied, is actually more truthful than what the official story is. because the Dodgers are also putting out the statement that's like, what was it? Shohei was generously paying off his friend's debts, which becomes Shohei never knew anything he was stolen from. That's crazy from a public relations standpoint, which tells me, with my little skeptic tinfoil hat, that Shohei actually did know more than he's letting on in the official statement. I think you're probably right. I doubt he said, I'm in debt for sports betting, because Ippei said, like, Shohei hates gambling. And obviously sports gambling is the biggest of the no-nos. If you're just playing poker and you fuck up and lose a bunch of money, that's one thing. But if you're, and to Ippei's credit, he never placed money on baseball, which crazy if you're in that much debt. At that point, you've already committed so many errors in your life. Why he never crossed that line is remarkable, and I would love an answer on someday and a tell-all. But I think Shohei does know he's in debt, and I think he is there allowing him to wire the millions and millions of dollars. I don't think Shohei's a stupid guy. I think he's a very intelligent guy. If you are wiring millions of dollars to a single guy and he's telling you put loan in the subject line for this, that's not going to raise a single red flag. You're not going to think for 1 second, is this illegal?
I go back to the cultural difference. You got to remember, Japan is a place where if you leave your wallet on public transit, someone will follow you off the train and throw their commute out of the way to return it to you. I mean, my uncle said he went to Japan once. He left his wallet in a taxi and the driver found him at his hotel because the key was in the wallet to go return it to him. Like, they are a fundamentally trusting society where, quite frankly, even when someone does something wrong, if they come forward and say, yeah, I'm in trouble, I did something wrong, people assume you're being forthcoming about that. So honestly, if he did come to Shohei in a moment of vulnerability, as I believe he did, if I had to guess, he lied to the interviewer about the fact that he told Shohei it was gambling. My guess is that's what Shohei lied about. And again, I don't think this was a full-blown, like, he didn't know anything, he completely lied, and this is where we need to get into the nuance and the context, is that I think the lie was about the gambling. And I think that's why he freaked, because once the FBI was involved, this ceased to become a sports journalism thing and became a legal matter. And as a lawyer, he realized he needed to clean things up, because there's a very big difference between a tell-all to an ESPN journalist and something that's going to end up in the facts of a federal case.
I don't know. It's very suspect to me.
I don't think the word
guy was letting this all go. He was in, and he even stops
I don't
her and
think
he's
the
like,
word
"Well, this
gamble.
isn't a cover up. This isn't a cover up." Which is a crazy thing to throw out there when she hasn't said the words cover up. By the way,
I don't think the word gambling was ever translated to Shohei Ohtani until it became a thing. And that was the reason for the pivot. Up until that point, it was, I'm in debt, I got myself in trouble. But I think gambling was some cardinal sin. And once it crossed into something that could hurt his career and also went against those fundamental morals, I think that's when that switch was flipped. And I do think that Ippei said to Shohei, I'm in a lot of debt. I need your help. He came to him in vulnerability. He got that help. Honestly, what he probably told him was that he was borrowing a bunch of money to keep up with the lifestyle. And then
it's just so weird that...
You're right, it's weird. And we don't know.
Shohei's official story changes. This is why the jokes have persisted for as long as they have about people being like, Shohei got a slap on the wrist and they let Ippei take the fall for this whole thing. I don't think Shohei ever placed bets. I'm actually very interested, like I said, the Matt Boyer clip at the very end of the 3rd episode, where he says, I was telling people I landed my whale who could pay $50 million and it was nothing. That's not Ippei. That's absolutely never Ippei. And he has come out and been like, no, Shohei never placed bets with me. So I'm like, well, what was going on there? That's crazy to me. I'm very interested to see that. I just think it's crazy that Ippei is apparently communicating with Shohei's representatives, able to lie to them for days without anyone apparently asking Shohei,
again,
with another translator.
I think Ippei was the intermediary, and I agree.
That's my issue, is it's crazy that you're letting this guy who's telling you, I'm implicating Shohei in a sports betting scandal. Even if Shohei doesn't know it's sports betting, they know in the interview with Tisha that it's sports betting. His people know. And so they're letting this guy who's implicating their star...
Because I think he lied
continue to translate?
I don't know what in God's name, assuming, and again, we're not in the room, I would love to see, and quite frankly, I think this would make a great TV show, and this would be a great plot of a TV show. I would love to see that initial meeting with Shohei's agent, Matthew Heltzik. I could be wrong, but from everything I understand, up until this point, Ippei was the single point of communication between Shohei Ohtani and the entire English-speaking world. And that is, I mean, you're right, that is an insane level of trust that I don't think ever should be placed in one person like that.
It's not even that that's the level of trust. It's that why are they allowing Ippei to continue to interpret? There are other interpreters around in that clubhouse that they can get on the phone with. We got a crisis comms person together
by the way,
in 2 hours.
I have to imagine happened at that point. And again, I wish we could see a TV episode, and I want to hear from the bookie. I also want to hear from his agent, and I want to hear from the crisis comms guy, by the way. I hope we get him in an episode too. And we'll come back to this and keep you all posted as the episodes come out, and we'll keep reacting to them. But I also wonder if at that point they actually called Shohei in English and said, like, at a very high level, this is what's going on. What do you want to do? And he may have said, trust Ippei. I could see that, because at the end of the day, you call your client and say, what do you want to do about this guy? He's like, I talked to him. He told me what's up. I trust him. Let him handle it.
We'll see. I'm very skeptical.
It's a possibility.
I think Shohei's team, it probably did some lying to protect him. Honestly, I think what happened, I get what you're saying about Ippei probably just didn't tell him, but why would I let Ippei say that Shohei let me wire money to my bookie? I know what the rules are. You are allowing Ippei to implicate Shohei Ohtani's involvement with a bookie directly against MLB gambling rules.
Again, I don't think anyone else is in the room when Ippei did that first call with Tisha. That
whole call was one time, and the crisis comms guy was in the background.
Oh, he was?
There were that recorded call was all one call, and Matt is there and is piping in.
Oh, right, yeah.
He's in there for that whole interview.
Yeah, you're right. Either way, I don't think Matthew Hiltzik had more than a 5-minute conversation with Ohtani in English where he said, I'm getting calls about these transactions that were made from your account. Ippei's implicated. Do you trust him to handle this, or do you need someone else? I mean, we don't know.
I really don't think that's what happened.
Let's not speculate when there are episodes.
There's 3 more episodes to come. My hope, because again, like I said at the top, if I'm Shohei's team, I'm annoyed with this. The fact that it's really painting a picture of doubt in how A, their team handled it, B, and if Shohei's telling the truth, and C, you're drip dropping it. It's not like we dropped all 6 episodes so we can react. It's now I have to wait till Tuesday, and then I have to wait till Thursday, and then I have to wait till Tuesday again. August 10th is going to be the last day where we finally get all of these answers. And it dredges the story back up. They really, I mean, from a crisis comms perspective, for as much as I'm sitting here belaboring how mishandled I think this is as we get this background story, it was the most beautiful execution of crisis comms you've ever seen. Shohei goes out, gives one statement, says, I'm not taking any questions, and everyone goes, I guess we just won't push it. We'll let the story die.
It's handled.
It was the most beautiful way to handle crisis comms, and it's now getting drudged back up again, and I think it's going to get drudged back up in a way where Shohei's going to have to answer questions. I think there are going to be a lot of outstanding questions, even if we get into, and the federal prosecutor said this, and this. I think there are going to be people who have these questions.
I think this is going to put it to bed once and for all. I think the drip is actually brilliant. Because again, first of all, you're saying this is a masterclass in crisis comms, which I agree, given the way that Matthew Hiltzik, who is a very well-known crisis comms guy, who knows what he's doing, given the fact that he's clearly being mentioned at length in this podcast. Clearly, he spoke again in the preparation of it. Whether or not he's interviewed at some point on the record for the podcast or not, there's no way in hell he didn't have at least some input or at least a chance to comment on the putting together of this podcast. We were making jokes. We were talking about it just last week. Padres fans, Yankees fans, everyone else's fans, they're never going to be satisfied.
You're allowed to joke about Shohei Ohtani.
So if you're so if you're really good at crisis comms, then why not give ESPN a little drip podcast?
You think crisis comms got a reporter to put out a 6-part? That's very crazy thing to say about the ethics of a reporter.
I don't think they got her to do it directly, but I wouldn't be shocked if somebody on somebody's team went to somebody and said, hey, it's a really good idea. Why don't you do a 6-part podcast? Because, by the way, now we're going to have
things to come back up. You want to let sleeping dogs lie. Jokes are one thing.
But these aren't sleeping dogs.
You're putting out the... No one actually
unless
thought
something
Shohei
else is, by the way, unless
implicated.
something else is coming.
Well... maybe something else is coming. And
unless something else is coming. Or do you know what this is? Isn't there court stuff happening right now?
Wasn't Ippei sentenced like a year ago?
I don't know.
The trial had been long over. To me, this has been settled for so long.
Then why are we doing this now?
I think there's going to be something that comes out of... like, why would ESPN do a retroactive on something that already happened unless they wanted to break something a little bit new? Yeah, people joke about it, but no one actually takes these jokes as something serious. Like the lady doth protest too much situation. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to shut down people joking about Shohei... which, and by the way, to what end? He already signed the mega deal with the Dodgers. It's not like there's anything that this joke is preventing him from achieving in his life.
I'm trying to figure out why they're doing it now. And
I think Tisha has something new that's going to drop in the course of this.
My guess is it was a new interview she couldn't get before. And
Maybe.
I wonder who the big guest for the final episode is.
If it's not Shohei himself.
Oh, and there it is. What if it's Shohei himself?
If it's Shohei himself, fine, because what's coming out of this is that he's going to have to answer questions.
Yeah, but isn't that a perfect way to do it? Get the hype cycle up and then do the big press conf?
Because why would he agree to sit down with Tisha and do a podcast on this? There is no reason for him to voluntarily drudge this back up.
Unless it's been weighing on him, or I don't know if Ippei's been reaching out. Who frickin' knows? Either way, let's not speculate.
How it all ends up.
Yeah, but looking forward to continuing this one.
Well, by the next time we talk, the trade deadline will have concluded. So we'll know if Mason Miller gets traded, where Tarik Skubal is heading.
And where the heck we send Dalton Rushing.
Or if he stays. And I hope that cancer in your clubhouse grows and you guys continue to go on a slide. I know you won a game again against the Mariners, but I hope that little taste after, as we talked about the White House, kind of...
Yeah, let's not even get into that.
You're not in a slide yet, so we don't have to, but we'll see.
Fine. All right.
We'll see. Okay.
We'll pick this up.